KatDash Harmonizer. I just recently made a video where I unboxed the Harmonizer and then we used it to establish a balancing or a synchronization between our two carburetors here on this BMW motorcycle. But since then I have learned a few things, how even better you can use this Harmonizer to squeeze peak performance out of your motorcycle, particularly this airhead BMW. So I had gotten in touch with KatDash, and probably the name giver of this company, Kat, sent an email back to me with a PDF file attached, which included some instructions written by the original inventor of this device. He was lovingly nicknamed by some people on forums Grok. So he wrote up some instructions. I think if we go over that, it would be really helpful to the present or future owners of those of the Harmonizer to just know what's going on. So to just give you a quick summary, you use the Harmonizer to establish a basic balance, idle balance of those two carburetors by using the balancer setting in the device, which allows you to hook these vacuum hoses to each side of the engine, to each carburetor. I have to mention that my carburetors already have a vacuum port. Some older models, BMW specific, might not have those, but on some Bing carburetors they can be retrofit. They actually sell the vacuum ports. It's kind of like a screw-in type deal as an aftermarket, or not aftermarket, but like a retrofit. So once you have those vacuum ports, you now hook up the Harmonizer to the two carburetors. Then you turn on the device, let it calibrate or set itself to 0. Then you start up your engine. Make sure that it's already warmed up. So take it for a ride, half an hour, run it around the neighborhood, a few laps. Some people say to do that and then let it sit for a minute or two, so the engine kind of heat soaks itself. Then you start it back up. And in the last video, I was pretty cautious about not running it too long, not idling it too long, because it might overheat. This time I've actually gone through the trouble and got my two fans that I have here in my shop set up so that we can simulate this motorcycle is actually on the road. We have some airflow going, so there is no danger of overheating this engine today. So you establish a basic synchronization between the carbs at idle. And then you close up one vacuum port and use only one vacuum hose connected to the yellow port here and hook it up to one carburetor. Then you're going to focus your attention to the idle mixture adjustment on the carburetor, on this one single carburetor where you currently have your vacuum hose attached to. And then you're going to adjust your idle mixture to the highest idle. That's pretty much done by you turn it in until the idle drops off, then you turn it out until the idle drops off, and you find the sweet spot in the middle. You go into your Harmonizer and turn it to the gauge mode, which is pretty much just a vacuum gauge. And while this the yellow line is hooked up to only one carburetor, you do this high idle. You try to find the high idle spot and use the vacuum reading, which is in inches of mercury, to really identify the highest idle. At highest idle, this carburetor will have the highest amount of vacuum. So once you identify that spot, you take the line off, plug the vacuum port on that carb, open up the vacuum port on this. There's a little a screw in there with a little gasket. Hook up the, I'm talking about the yellow line, the ports are marked red and yellow. And the yellow is the one that's being used in the gauge mode. So balancer mode, both lines are used. In the gauge mode, only the yellow line is used. So you hook it up to the other side, and again, do the high idle game. Find the highest vacuum. reading. Once you're at that spot, both carburetors are adjusted to highest idle. Then you're going to go back to the balancing mode, and I showed you in the last video how to select the modes of this device. You just push the red button here on the face of the device, hold it, and it will cycle through the menu, and you just stop wherever you want to set it. So gauge mode, balancer mode, lantern, whatever, you know, the modes will just flip through. So you put it back to balancer mode, hook it up to both ports again, so you have to open up both ports, both lines attached. Then you're going to do another idle balancing. Once you have it perfectly idle balanced, so basic balance, then individually high idle, then again idle balance, then you're going to move on to higher RPM balancing. So you pick an RPM that you're comfortable with, 2500, 3000 RPM, and you just hold it there, and you see where your balance is, and then you have to do the adjustment of the throttle cables, just like I demonstrated in the previous video. But the part that I wanted to share in this video was the more or less 4-step method. You do a basic balancing, then a high idle mixture adjustment on each in gauge mode, and then you go back to idle balancing in balancer mode, and then you're going to do the high RPM balancing. And once you have completed all those 4 steps, your BMW Airhead or any other 2-cylinder motorcycle that you might own will be at peak performance. If you want to go a step further, you could probably use this for any multi-cylinder carbureted motorcycle that has vacuum ports on the carburetors. A little while back, I was working on a Ninja 600R Kawasaki 1992. That's a 4-cylinder straight 4, and it uses pretty much the same type of carburetor. It has 4 constant velocity carburetors made by Mikuni. I don't know exactly, don't remember. But it also has vacuum ports. And how they describe balancing this motorcycle is that you always balance carburetors in pairs. So you do cylinder 1 and 2 together, then you do cylinder 3 and 4 together as a pair, and then you close up cylinder 1 and 2, 1 and 4's vacuum port, and then you're using cylinder 2 and cylinder 3 as a representative of those 2 pairs, and then you're pretty much just balancing the pairs to each other. So with a 2-port balancer like the Harmonizer is, you can also balance a 4-cylinder motorcycle. That's pretty much baseline. So this is a really usable tool. You can also do the same mixture adjustment with high idles, finding the high idle spot with a gauge mode that this device allows you to do. And you can do that on any motorcycle as long as it has a vacuum port on the carburetor. Some don't. Some need some other equipment. Some need some other ways of hooking up a vacuum gauge. But this one, originally designed by a Airhead enthusiast and now reproduced or produced again by KatDash, that make many other products that are specifically for Airheads and BMW motorcycles. So let's get this started up. I'm going to let it run a little bit to reheat it. You know, by now it probably has cooled down a little bit, and then once I feel like it's warmed up properly with my fans running, we're going to go through the motions. It is already more or less balanced. We're just going to do the high idle in gauge mode, and then see where our settings are. All right, guys, I'll pause you, and then we'll be right back. All right, guys, so here we're going. Engine's running, the fans are blowing. It's idling nicely. It's responding to throttle inputs nicely. Now we have to shut it off real quick. And then we're going to start up the Harmonizer. You have to have either the vacuum ports disconnected or the engine off for it to calibrate. Please wait. And then it automatically goes into the balancer mode. So you have the middle needle that will move left and right. Let me pause you, start up the engine again, and then we're gonna check our basic idle balance. So yeah, this couldn't be any better. Like I said, we did already a balancing. At idle, we are like so dead nuts, it's unbelievable. It idles at a little over 1,000 RPM. As you can see, it gives us the cute little happy face. So that's all we need at this point. Now, I will disconnect one vacuum hose. That's the red one. It might prove me wrong. Maybe it's the red one that we have to connect and the yellow one that we need to disconnect. Yeah, but let's start with the yellow one. I think that's what maybe it even says that here. Gauge mode, engine off, connect only one port, select gauge mode, start engine. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm gonna pause you one more time. So in order for us to get into gauge mode now, we're just gonna hold the button, 0, power off, toggle LED, balancer mode, and there's gauge mode. Now we're in gauge mode. Now I have to close off one, and I have my little trusty little magnetic tray, my little block off screw. So I'm gonna put you aside, lock this off, start the engine at the same time, and then we have the yellow connector line hooked up to the other carburetor. So we're gonna start on the right side, and then find the high idle, and then we're going to move over to this to the left side. Generator light is on. So yeah, 1,000 RPM is kind of like the minimum for my generator or alternator. So now we're at one cylinder. It shows me 4.23 inches of mercury at 970 RPM. That's a little low, but maybe we can correct this today. So one side's blocked off and one side's hooked up. Last time I showed you where the adjustment screw is for the butterfly valve, and now we're gonna focus on the mixture screw. So my trusted screwdriver, sorry it's all shaky, one-handed operation. You know what? It's probably beneficial if I move my Harmonizer maybe down below here, so where we can actually see it. So you guys watch the gauge, and I just turn the mixture screw, and you tell me when we reach the highest number. 4.26, 4.35. That's dropping off. So we're already really close. 4.32. I'm just going the opposite direction now. We're like already right there. I'm doing like very small incremental movements here. I just want to see when it starts dropping off the other direction. Yeah, now it's dropping off there too. So we're like within a 16th of a turn here, fine-tuning it. 4.23. 4.26, 4.29, like a tad more. We had a spot where we were in the 4.3s. Once in a while you might want to bleep your throttle real quick just to, clear out the carbs. So let's do that again. Yeah, this is absolutely the highest spot that I can find. right there. So between 4.32 and 4.29. So this, for the right side carburetor, this is highest idle. I just adjusted the mixture screw right there, like really fine little turns. So now I'm gonna kill her real quick, put the block off screw in on the right side, pull it out on the left side, and change the hose over. So turn off, pause you guys. So we're running again. Again, my generator light, it's like right around the 1000 RPM mark that it kind of complains. So looks like the vacuum level over here is just ever so slightly higher. We're talking about maybe 3, 4, 5 inches, no, 0.4 or 0.5 inches of mercury. So now we're gonna do the same thing here, same mixture screw, just a different carburetor. Sorry for the wind noise, but that's the fan. So now I'm gonna see if we can increase. Oh, this is going up. Now it's going down again. So I guess I was already at the I'm currently turning the screw in. So, you know, turning the screw so it goes into the carb. That's leaning it out. And now I'm turning opposite direction to see how high we can get this reading. It's jumping around a little bit, but we're pretty much already there. Now we're going down again. So we were already at the sweet spot. Where's the sweet spot? Come on now. It has a big sweet spot. I keep turning incrementally, tiny little amounts, and now we're finally dropping off. Okay, now we're going back to where it was in the 40s, the 0.41, 0.44, right there. That's what we're gonna say. All right. So now we have high idle on both carbs. Now we're gonna open up both vacuum ports, left and right, hook it up back into balancer mode. Let me just pause you real quick. So now I have both hoses connected to the carbs. My two little block off screws are right there. Now we're gonna go push the button again, go back to gauge mode. Oh no, not gauge mode, balancer mode. We might actually want to zero this real quick. Zero, so it does another calibration. There we go. Let me pause and start the engine. So engine running. We did basic idle balancing. Then we did high idle on both carbs, and now we're back at the second round of balancing in balancer mode. And as you can see, our balancing really hasn't changed much at all. It's so minimal fluctuations over to the left side carburetor. So that means the left side carburetor has ever so slightly more vacuum. This would be silly to play around because it's a deflection of, it's negligible. Now, so, and now the only last thing that's left to do after the first 3 steps is the open throttle, you know, 2,000-3,000 RPM. You want to see if your balancing is correct there as well. And since I have fans running, I'm not like freaking out about temperatures. And today's a pretty nippy day. We're like in the 40s, so it's not bad at all. So you watch RPM. I'm gonna go about 2,500 to 3,000 RPM and see if we have any disbalance here. And this is like probably as good as it will get. This is so close to being perfect. Yeah, this is, let's go down to maybe 2,000. The happy face is still there. This is so good. And I can tell just by going on and off throttle and how she sits here, and there is absolutely no vibration. Oftentimes, you know, the old timers will tell you, you gotta just listen to your machine, and they are right. They are absolutely correct. If you listen to your machine, and maybe before you pull out the harmonizer to go through all those steps here, if you just do the high idle by ear, so you're sitting next to your machine and you're turning the idle mixture screw in slowly until you feel the RPM dropping off, and then you unscrew it until you get to the high spot, and then go past it and you find the spot where it again drops off of RPM, and you put it right in the middle. And you do that on both carbs. And last time I mentioned that I have this old style set of little spark plug extensions. Here, let me see if I can find them here real quick in my toolbox under the seat. Where is it? Am I hiding them from myself? Probably. So they're just little, it looks like they are made out of spokes maybe. Here's my toolbox. Yes, I know, I don't have a roll for the tools. They're all just floating around in here. But what did I do with my little extensions? I'm hiding them from myself. You guys know what I'm talking about. They are just little steel pins that you screw on the end of a spark plug. Then you put your spark plug cap back on there, and then you can use a screwdriver, kind of like so, and then ground out one spark plug, and then you go over to the other side and you just listen to the change in RPM. And if the reaction to this grounding is about the same in idle, you are already balanced. So when I first got the harmonizer, I was so close, and I really used this only for fine tuning. And now we're so fine tuned. This is so balanced, and I can tell by just how it idles, how it sits here, how it revs when I run it around the block here. It is. We established high idle on both, and we got it balanced at idle, and we got it balanced on the throttle. You know, if you're a perfectionist, you could probably try to get those 3 millibars balanced out, which wouldn't be a hard thing to do. You know, at idle, you just go to your throttle butterfly adjuster and incrementally turn it. Yeah, we're so close. No, I just made it worse. That's funny. It's funny. Yeah, this is it. This is it, my friends. Harmonizer in action again. Now after reading the full instruction sheet written by Grok. I don't even know if I'm saying this nickname correctly. Grok. Balancing out my 2-cylinder, and it's really happy with that.